Hello, people. Welcome to One on One. And today we have Shreya with us.
Hi,
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great.
Okay. Um, this podcast it's kind of quite specific because we're gonna touch few topics which I am very interested in. I'm very curious about to know, and which is research. And उसके अलावा भी will move on to some further topics if the time allows us. But yeah, primary focus will be research. And I don't think so I know anyone better than her जो मुझे brief कर सकता है what research is, what and she can explain it so nicely. So Shreya, how has your experience been like with research specifically?
So, beginning this whole journey, I would talk about. I came to this college because we had research as our subject, and that was my primary focus when I chose this college. And when I came in, I think we had a subject for research, and we used to give exams, and most of it appeared to me as common sense because it was just PPTs and questions, and I never thought about research seriously in my first year. Although we had a research proposal, I think in physio or biochemistry, what was it?
Yeah, physio.
Physio.
Yeah.
So I think we worked on that, but I wasn't exactly active at that time. So we finished that. I think my main journey with the research that I'm working on right now began this year when I started working under Dr. Tupas. She's the head of the research and development department in our school. And what essentially happened is, I think in her first class that she had, our first lecture for the year was with Dr. Tupas.
Yes.
And she came in for research class, she gave us an intro, and in the end she said, well, if anybody wants to work for research, you can just approach me. And as soon as the class ended, I went to her. I'm like, ma'am, I'm interested. So I ended up talking to her, and she asked me to form a group and then get in touch with her again. And then I did. 4 of my friends agreed to join the group, and we went to Doc, and we were like, Doc, this is our group. So at that time, she was working on a research about guava leaves. Okay, so these guava leaves are basically prepared into a decoction, and decoction is basically heating the extract, but an extract does not contain alcohol. A decoction contains alcohol, so that's the difference. So that decoction is given to the patient, and it is believed to help with the thrombolytic effects, so what happens in dengue is that this study is based off dengue. So in dengue there is you lose platelets. So essentially this should help in building new platelets. That is what the study is about, because most of our patients die because of platelet loss, and dengue is a very important issue in Davao city in actuality, because most of our cases here, a lot of cases are dengue because this is a tropical country and mosquitoes, and it makes sense. So that is why I think she chose that for her study, and she herself has been associated with the university, a university in Belgium. I don't exactly recall the name, but she's been working with a Belgian university, and she's getting her PhD there. So because she's really busy with her PhD and also handling the whole department, she does not have a lot of time to go through with us about the study. So that's one research study that I started. After that, I started going to these research meetings and started speaking to our professors. I realized that Doc Maya Abundo, she had this 2 proposals up with her. I think the other proposal is still up. If anybody wants to, please approach her.
Oh, really?
Yes, there is one proposal up. But I think a few of my friends are also targeting that. I don't know. But if you guys reach in time, you might just get it. I think it's the poop one.
The poop one?
Yes. So there was one about sweat and urine, but the one that I told her I want to work on is based off a plant called Pruslane. So this plant is believed to have a lot of omega-3 in it, and omega-3 is generally extracted from animal sources.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are vegan, like you. You're vegetarian, right?
Vegetarian, yeah.
So you can't really eat those fish and those non-vegetarian sources. So it would be a really good, let's say, alternative for people who are vegetarian and vegan. So that's the focus of her study. She wants to formulate into a powder and make the big bucks.
But it's so amazing. Like research as a concept is so amazing that they are doing stuff for people which has never been done, right? Like nobody thought of vegetarians that they can have omega 3 apart from walnuts. Like I know that walnuts have a little bit of omega-3, but mostly prominently it is present in the fishes.
Yes.
So that's a lovely thing, man. What research does to us, that they'll be like,
But don't eat that plant. We don't know what dosage is toxic yet.
yeah. But when you were mentioning about the guava leaves, in
Yeah.
India we have papaya leaves, right?
Yeah.
When to increase the platelets and all.
Yeah.
When somebody has dengue. So yeah.
Because when I was doing the study, my mom calls me up and she's like, you know what, guava leaves, do the study about guava leaves. And like, that study has been done under Ayurveda already ages ago.
Uh-huh.
And I think a lot of these studies about using plant sources have been described in Ayurveda already. And like, us in science are just rediscovering those things right now.
Mm-hmm.
But they've been written down by the people who existed before us. And it's just amazing to me how they did that. And we've been using them as home remedies in India.
Yeah, true.
कि हल्दी ले लो, ये ले लो, वो ले लो. And we don't know that, but there was a lot of thought that went into it.
Cool. So this is what your experience was,
Mhm.
and the thing you have done till now.
Yeah.
Tell me, if somebody is interested, okay, to start this journey of research.
Mhm.
If you have to explain them what actually research is and what are the skills research require, so how will you expand on that? What it is all about?
I think research does not require skill, it requires will.
All right, nice.
Because you're going to fail. You're going to fail so many times because I mean, me and my friends, we don't know a lot of things. We don't know basic physiology. Because although we've studied it, we haven't studied it in depth to sort of
Conductor research.
research. Yeah. So even when we know the cycle, we have to read in depth about every molecule, every particle, and then amounts of those particles. And I think we went through like 45 studies, reading them top to bottom, and according to doc we should be reading about 100 or 200,
Oh my
and
God.
45 was what we could finish in our vacations.
Ah,
So you're going to fail. And I think you should be ready to fail and still keep on doing it. I think resilience is the only skill you need. It's not even a skill. I think it's your quality. It's a quality in you. And I think if you have resilience, you can do this. And beginning to sort of apply to research, you should go and like speak to one of your research faculty who teaches you research, and ask them if they have like a study going on that you could work under, and they are very helpful. Trust me, they're very helpful.
cool.
Just that don't go to like a very busy faculty, because then they try to help you, but then they have their own schedule, so they can't put you into that schedule, so you get pushed away. So try and go to a faculty who has time for you and who can give you that time.
Right. In this your journey, like because you started from first semester and we are in second semester right now, so around 6 months. What are the things you have learned? Like, what are the resources you found useful? What were the organizations you found useful that I can pick up these things from them, to make it easier for the people who are just beginning?
So I think my first problem was I did not know how to write a proposal.
Okay.
And I think we had Doc Lindo send us that file in the first year, and I went through that file and I wrote it down, and then I realized you have to be worried about every little thing, right from your tense to your statement being written in what person, whether it's first person, second person, third person, and that differs for every part of the study.
Okay.
So like your methodology has to be written in the past tense, like this was done, but your introduction has to be written in the present tense. So you can't, it's very minute, those details need to be understood. And I think we have to go through the resources that school has provided us at first in detail, because school has done a really good job at that. I give it up to our school and the department obviously. But beyond that, there are courses with, I think there is this place, Coursera. Coursera has courses that come from Stanford, from MIT, and you can like go into those courses. Obviously they make you pay for it. If you have a Coursera subscription, you don't have to pay for it. But it's like I think $70, $80 a month or a year. When I did it, Coursera was free.
Oh.
But now Coursera makes you pay for things like that. So you can do those, what do you call it? courses so that they let you in on how to use PubMed. Because that day I was just sitting next to Dr. Bundo and she was, talking about Priscilla, and she just, she had this thing in her laptop and then she clicks onto buttons and then all the latest studies were there.
Wow.
And when we try to do it, I would like go to the search bar and I would put in 2024 studies. And that's not how it's done.
Okay.
There are options in PubMed, and understanding the PubMed website is also really important, and that is something that we don't have because we don't use PubMed.
Right. Yeah.
So like as a normal student, we wouldn't like go to PubMed for something unless like your teacher has told you to do that. So we need to understand the working of the PubMed website, and there are other AI tools that help you write your research paper, to non-plagiarize it, to rephrase things. So you need to understand the AI tools that are there, and because you can't use ChatGPT for this.
Yeah.
So, but there are AI tools that help you. So understanding of those tools is necessary, and I think once you get into Coursera, you'll find a lot about these.
Cool. Nice. What else? What else about research that fascinates you? That do you think you'll ever get into it like professionally? Like apart from being it, like you're doing it as a volunteer, would you like to conduct a research of your own sometime in future?
So I'll tell you about this one time. I think I was in Mumbai at the time,
Okay.
and it was after Pune. I was in Mumbai, and I was at home. I was very bored, so I started doing this course with MIT on. It was called neuroscience. Okay, so I went in with expectations of understanding neuroanatomy so that it would be easier for me when I go to med school and stuff like that. But turns out that course was on sensory perception. So they basically described to us how sensory perception works, and the professor who taught it, Nancy Kanvisher, she was too good. So she ended up speaking about how perception works. So do you want me to expand on that?
Yeah, please, please.
Okay, so if you look at this leaf, what color do you see?
Green. Yeah.
What color do I see? Green? But the green in my head and the green in your head, are they the same color?
No,
Could they be the same color?
I don't think so.
And there's no way of knowing that because we haven't found a way to measure human perception.
Okay.
So perception, consciousness, that was what the class was about. Like the course, I think it was a 1 month long course. I had 30 classes that I took, and the most fascinating was the class that we had about perception. So I ended up reading a lot about this. I went up studying about extrasensory perception.
Okay.
So psychics,
Yeah, yeah.
so they can feel, say mediums होते हैं,
Yeah.
they feel the presence of a third party in this thing. So I wanted to really get into depth of what that meant. So basically what they came across was that their brains operate in theta waves, the waves that we operate in when we are asleep.
Oh.
Even as a normal person, they're operating in the waves that we're operating in sleep. And what they theorized is that, the study that I read theorized is that they have some receptors to recognize those extrasensory perceptions that we don't.
All right.
So that was something that fascinated me. And just this morning, I love Grimes. So I was like going through her Instagram, and she has this post. She says, "I'm biohacking." And that's when it hit me, and I watched Dune. That in Dune, it was they represented a human society that was ahead of time.
Yeah.
So they were basically a generation that was biohacked. Their brains were biohacked to know more than what we can. They were able to perceive more than we can. And that is why they were able to put out more and make greater decisions that we can. So I think that is the future of humanity in general. And Neuralink, Elon Musk's company, is actually working with that. They've started extracting your neurons. Okay, they place them, and it's because computers use a lot of electricity. So apparently 5% of world's electricity was used in running computers. So what they did is they took in these brain cells, because your brain cells only consume 20 watts of energy, and they connected them to a microprocessor, and they used the electricity that was generated by our brain cells to run processors. which in future could be placed in our own brains.
Oh my God.
So what we are looking at in the future is biohacked human beings, not robots, but human beings who are performatively better, genetically better, and if God, time, universe, everything permits me, I would love to work under it. And that is why I look at research, because see, this study that I do about plants, it's just telling me what research is, how research looks like. But what I'm truly interested in is perception
Okay.
about human biology, and I would really love to work in that if my situations allowed me. But if it didn't, I'm happy to help you as a clinician.
Nice. Also, I was really fascinated when we had our first conversation, which was back in Pune, with all those little internships you have done. So, can you talk about that, the summer internship you did back then in COVID, and how do you find them, and how can a person find them, and
Okay.
how does it, helps them in future?
So one advice I'll give you is cold mail a lot of people. If you find my email, I email a lot of people.
Okay.
So I'll tell you to dream big and be stupid, because you're going to look stupid when you send those mails to people. But it's okay to look stupid. Trust me, it's worth it. So I'll tell you about that one. So I did an internship. It wasn't an internship actually. It was more of a virtual work experience with Brighton and Sussex Medical School. So at that time, in COVID, I had just like finished high school. So I was really looking at getting into medical school, but I was looking at UK at the time.
Okay.
So in UK they required you to work in, or at least have a experience with the UK med schools. Now in COVID I couldn't go to the UK. So they had this Brighton and Sussex Medical School had this online virtual work experience, so I registered for it. So then they basically introduced us to all the fields. I think all of the introductory classes that we've had right now about surgery, pediatrics, they basically did that, and they showed us around the hospital. So we were in rounds with the doctors and the attendings, and then like it was like an online class, and then you would go around and you would see all those patients, and that's it. And they would talk about those cases. They would talk about cases like multiple sclerosis. I think at that time I didn't understand much out of it, because to me it was like hospital, cases, patients. That was all it was to me. Because like, what do you expect like a 16-year-old or 17-year-old to understand from that?
True.
Because now when we look at those things, we really get in depth of what had happened to the patients, what were the complications, and we can really understand that because we are in it.
Yeah.
So at that time, although they could have talked about those things, I was nowhere in the
Zone,
mind to
yeah.
like understand it. To me, it was like something cool that I'm doing.
Yeah.
But okay, so that internship I did landed because at that time I was registered with a lot of magazines, med magazines in the UK.
Cool.
So those magazines have these, what do you call it? Opportunities. They have them in their magazines. So I came across that there, and then I was like, you know what, this is cool, I need to register for it. And then I ended up being on it. After that, I think in India, if you're like somebody who's Indian, I think it's really good if you join Rotaract, because I was their international ambassador for like a year.
Yeah.
And Rotaract has a lot of good opportunities, because they take you for like bloodletting, they take you out to a lot of examination camps, and it's a cool experience. And overall, they have a lot of events. I think there's a Rotaract club here too, Rotaract Club of Downtown Davao, and there's a lot of Indian students who work there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea about that.
So, and I think Indian students who live here after they finish their degree, some of them do. So they are heading that thing. And because I've spoken to them, but I never had the opportunity to like visit them ever. But they have events here. And one time we actually collaborated with them from Mumbai, when I was back in Mumbai here. And we had like a collab event, but that was years ago. But if you're like back in India for your vacations, the Rotaract membership is like 200 rupees, not more than that. So 200 or 500, not more than that. So you can register, and then you can take to their events, go for blood extraction camps and all that. So you learn a lot, you get your hands-on experience, and that adds to your CV too.
Yeah, talking about CV, how to make CV eye-catching or unique from the other applicants? Like, how does research experience or any kind of experience make us medical students CV stand out in our residency program or as an employer or whatever?
So I really considered research after I looked into the match data. So if you visit the match website, match is your, for those who don't know, it's for your USMLE when you match.
Okay.
So they have a website for that. So on the match website, they have this data of the amount of students that matched. And so I think a lot of students clear USMLE, but not all of them match to a hospital.
Oh,
So that's the problem. You can clear your USMLE, but if you don't match, you sit with a cleared USMLE certificate.
and that's
Yeah.
equivalent to nothing.
So you need to have to even get a work visa to even visit the US. You need to go through the match data. So when I went through the match data, I realized that the people who had gotten into specialties that were more competitive, let's say like surgery, like dermatology, or all of these, they had done at least 6 research studies over their career, and they were published, 6 published studies, and about 23 and 29 non-published studies that were under the works. So when I talk about 2 that I'm doing, I don't really feel special, because there are people who are doing a lot of amazing things out there, and when I look up to that, I'm just like inspired. And I also feel very little that we don't know, but when we go out there we know. And
Yeah.
then that is why I think we need to step up our games. And beyond that, I think community, you're like helping your community is something that adds to your CV.
Okay.
And even like extracurricular activities, like okay, so when I had my podcast back in the day, at that time I had spoken to this doctor. That episode never came out, but I'd spoken to this Dr. John Paro. So he was a Stanford graduate in plastic surgery, and he got into Stanford for his residency because in med school he had written a song about diarrhea, and they asked him to play that song in his interview, and they really liked it, so they got him in. So it's not just like your internships and your research papers that pay you off, it's really stupid things that you do too. So do something as stupid as it is.
Nice. Your podcast. What was the motivation behind your podcast? First of all, the name. It was called Crude Med. So the name suggests that it's quite medical driven podcast. So what was the motivation? What was the theme? What were the topics you were thinking to cover? What was it all about?
So when I came up with crude med, my whole idea was crude meaning like crude oil, honest, honest medicine. And my whole motive behind that was because I'd seen like a lot of people in medicine were killing themselves, and we already don't have doctors, and that's like a seed wasted to me, to be very honest. If you kill yourself in medicine, you're wasting a seed that somebody else could have taken.
Yeah.
So you either finish this degree or you leave and you give that seat to somebody else, because it's really hard. There's not a lot of seats that are available in medicine, and my whole motivation was to prevent that from happening, or to help people in medicine understand what other people in medicine were doing to keep their careers afloat. But I stopped my podcast because I realized that I couldn't keep my own career afloat, so I couldn't talk about it for others, or to speak about those things. So I realized that maybe, although that goal stays in my head, I do have other things in mind to do for it, but I think that comes when I have money, not right now.
Nice. What else experience do you have to share, which can be beneficial to the viewers? That like it can be a lesson to them, which was they can learn from your mistakes. What do you think is there?
My mistakes? Okay, my mistakes are not very camera friendly.
Okay, then let's leave it. So I'll ask you some fun
Oh,
questions.
I have one advice. Don't get suspended, guys. Don't get suspended.
Yeah, but that's applicable to all the DMSS students. That's all. If you're in India, you're watching, it's okay. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, I have some questions for you. some fun questions, and then maybe we can wrap it up. Or if you have something else, we can touch on that.
Sure.
All right. So, what are the 3 things that you would like to accomplish before dying?
Okay. I would want to see the Northern Lights.
Okay.
I would want to go to Paris. And I would want to learn pottery before I die.
Lovely. Okay. So, what's your? I don't think so. This is something would you like to answer, but still, what's your favorite conspiracy theory?
Illuminati?
Yeah, people will agree on that. Cool. What's a grooming or a beauty or a fashion tip that people should know?
Leggings are not pants. They're not.
I want to tell. She has numerous accounts on Instagram, and I cannot keep track of them. But recently, I saw a post. I don't know if it's still there or not. did you remove
I took it down.
You took it down. There was a actually really nice post. I really liked it. It's about how to dress up. She made a whole post of like 10. It had 10 pictures or
Yeah,
something.
it was like a carousel.
It was a carousel. So where she's. Do you want to tell about this?
Okay, so it was basically, when you wear something that's form-fitting at the bottom, you not wear something that's really, form-fitting at the top, which
Okay.
I am doing right now. But that was what it was about. So if you're wearing like a form-fitting skirt, your blouse should be loose.
Okay.
And if you're wearing something that's form-fitting at the top, your pants should be loose, so that it gives an illusion of volume. So that was what it was about, and I think it was about the color theory and muted lips and yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that initiative, like, I quit on that for a reason. It was a lifestyle thing, but over the vacation I realized that I really wanted to stay in medicine and not go to lifestyle. So I quit that.
Okay.
Because I've heard you are not sure about staying in medicine.
Yeah, I'm not. And I had this whole conversation a week ago with Sumedha that because I was really, I don't want to use the word depressed, but I was really upset about what was happening. The second semester began, and I was feeling quite lost and quite sad.
Why?
Because I am not sure what I want to do. Like after 3 years, I don't know what lies ahead.
I think that is why what happened in the vacation is I took a break and I'm like, you know what, Shreya, we're going to sit down and think. What are we going to do? And like I came up with like plan Fs, like A, B, C, D, E, F.
Wow.
So now like if all fails, I have something.
Cool. That's lovely. I am sure about few things. Like I don't want to stay in India. First thing. Okay. So I just don't want to go back to India. That's one thing. Second thing is I am okay doing medicine. Like it's fine. As long I have a passion apart from it, I have something else to do. I can continue it, but उसके अलावा भी मुझे चीज़ें करनी है. So I just don't want to stick. Like I don't want to make medicine my life. That's what it is. It can be the primary source of income. It can be the primary thing I'm doing, but I want other things to keep going on. So वो चीज़ है. And I had this thing that maybe after MBBS I'll do MBA so that I can go into administration of healthcare and all that. But I'm also not sure about that now because it's too costly, man. In India, if you want to take admission in IIM, it's around 20 lakh per NM or something, if I'm not wrong.
It's the same in the UK.
Yeah, it is. So, is it worth it? I don't think so. If you have to take an education loan, I am not sure if it's worth it. So, बहुत सारा contemplation चला, बहुत सारी चीज़ें I thought, but
So what did you come down to?
I come down to that, I'm just going to stay in the present moment. I'm going to study because this is the only thing I have. And then I'm going to give my FMGE because obviously I need the degree that, I became a doctor. And after that, maybe I'll give AMC. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that I can settle down in a different country. So yeah.
I don't know. I was very up about going to the US or going to some other country, but I think I've come down to going back to India, which was a very bizarre choice for myself. Like I shook myself too, but I think I really do want to go back to India.
Yeah, you told me about it that you're really inspired by Dr. Pass. That she's doing her PhD from Belgium, right? If she wants, she can go there and practice and all.
Yeah, exactly. She brought it to her own country.
Yeah.
And that is what I appreciate about our school in general. Like, they try and bring things to their own country.
Yeah.
They don't, like, they can say, I mean, I've seen the research symposium that happened, I think, in the vacation,
Yeah.
3 weeks ago. We had professors from Belgium, we had professors from Germany come to our college and speak about those things. And people paid to listen to them in Tokyo, and the money that they paid was 60,000 pesos per person to just listen to those people, and we had that for free in our school. So, I mean, they could have sent, because the first thing that those professors said is, why, I don't know why DMSF is even conducting this, because DMSF has that kind of money that, they could send people with that money and they could have that thing in Japan. But instead, they chose to bring it back to their own country. And I realized that from our professors, I learned that they really want to give back to their community. And that is something I've learned in this school that I would take with myself.
True, very true. And I love our preceptors, man. I mean, I get inspired by them. Like I had this chat with Doc Padilla, Maria Padilla, that she said that her primary interest was to become an architect. And
Oh,
then,
wow.
yeah, and then because she did
She's an amazing doctor.
yeah, she is, right? And then she did this because her mother said that you should do it. And then after that, now she do that. She does architecture also. So she designed 2 houses, I guess. And she went to China once to, shop for some house or something. So yeah, she is doing that. And after seeing them, after seeing their examples, I'm like, maybe, I can still continue this thing and I can do what I like.
No, because Doc Abunda inspires me a lot. Because the other day I was like, she runs the gym. Like, she's in CrossFit Cranium on the weekends. She's in school. She's in the research department. She's in the hospital. And I'm like, woman, how can you be at so many places at a single point in time?
Yeah.
Like, it amazes me. Even like, I think I was in the clinic 2 weeks ago. I was sick, so I was sitting for a blood test. I see Doc Regeda walk in, and she, she signs the papers and she leaves. And then she has class, and I just see her and I'm just amazed by this, ability to put in so much in your schedule. I just love it.
Truly, I am very inspired by those people, by all our preceptors, because they are clinicians and they are faculties and they are marvelous one. They are not like those who are just here for the sake of money. No, they want to teach us. So that's the best thing.
They never let us go. They don't learn the lectures.
Yeah, they don't. They just don't. Okay. And now coming to the last question, which we have is, if you could ask your future self one thing, what would it be?
So if I could ask my future self one thing, it would be how to be. Whether to be politically correct or whether to be yourself. I think that is something that I'm dealing with right now. That's my problem. And I think she would know. I wouldn't. So that is something that I would ask her.
Wow. Oh, nice. That's lovely. That's all. That's all I had. Because I really wanted it to be a research-centric podcast,
Yes.
right? And you gave me everything you had. So I'm really grateful for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that's all, guys. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.